Welcome back. Today we're going to keep it nice and simple. We are going to try and make some jigs to help with our projects in the future. Now, before we start, legal. What we're going to be using is this stuff. Laminate flooring. You find laminate flooring everywhere. Offcuts, you'll find, which we're going to use, part boxes that can't be returned. 99.9% of the time people are just giving this stuff away just to get out of the road. But because it's nice and square and flat, it can be used for making jigs, jigsaws and circular saws to make straight cuts. But we're going to see if we can make a couple of jigs that would help with the likes of routing. So we can route in rebates to slide drawers or to slide bases in and stuff like that. So once I finish my tea, we will set up and we'll start making them. Nice, short, easy video today. What I'm going to start off with is a full length offcut and a full board. What we're going to make is a guide for the circular saw. Now, rather than just a circular saw, I want to make this dual purpose. So I'm going to have the circular saw guide on one side and a jigsaw guide on the other side. So first off, what we need to do is a quick measurement, if this is going to work. Yep, I've got plenty inside that side, and if I get my circular saw, I have plenty that side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the offcut piece through the table saw, ensuring that we have two parallel sides to the offcut piece. Now, just making sure that the blade and the fence are set, and making sure the height of the blade isn't too high. I can now run this through . Like so. Now we actually have two parallel sides. Now because it's a full length, we can just line it up roughly the middle of the full board, and taking a with brad nailer, you could glue this, screw it. But I have just a wee brad nailer here, so I'm going to use that. Now, I have staples in there, I need nails. Just want to make sure that it wasn't going to go through both sides. Doesn't really matter if it does. Load up my brad nailer. Ensuring that these are lined up either side. If they're square at the top or the bottom, they're going to be square down the middle. And just fire some brad nails in. That one didn't of course sink right in, so we tap down. Now, this is where you get the zero clearance for the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, on the edge of my table saw here, use a couple of clamps. Just reach up here for it. That down so it's not moving about, ensuring that I'm not going to cut into the bed of my table saw. Good battery. Just the blade, so we're just cutting through and no more. Place on the edge, lining up. I don't know if you can see that. Take that down a bit. There we are. Lining up the guide of this onto the straight edge there. And then at this point we take a marker see so we know that's the circular saw. Now all we do now turn it round and down again and do exactly the same with the jigsaw on the other side, lining up the guide edge. we are. We'll mark up this side. Jigsaw. Now what we can do is put a hole in the end so it can be hung up out of the way and kept nice and handy. Put it. Now we're going to make a router sled. Same as before, take a full board if you have one. We're going to run it through the table saw to take the tongue and groove off. Just like so. And now we're going to take a strip off two inches strip. Off that piece. So, it doesn't have to be perfect. Now, using our small trim router, we're going to use that now. What I want to do is line that up. In fact, yeah, take that off altogether. And find just the edge of the hole I'm just going to put one brad nail in there just to hold it. And come down the other end, and once again just the edge of the hole. And check the middle. Yeah. Right along. And secure that down with brad nails. Now, by doing that, now we have a straight guide for our router to run down. Obviously that's not going to be a zero clearance because the size of the bits differ, but what it does do, back in, don't know if you can see there, what that does is if we can place that down on the centre line, push that up and run it down like that, we know that that centre line is going to run straight down the line we require for the routing. Now with this one again, dual sided, we can do the same on the other side. For the plunge router, there's a guide. As you can see, I'm using the rounder edge rather than the flat edge because the rounder edge gives you more control of keeping the router bit where you want it rather than the flat edge, because the flat edge can deviate off the board. Now if I place that on like so, using a marker, 2.5 inches. So we want 2.5 inches from the edge of the router plate, the guide bar. So I can use that. Take this over here. And there we have a straight guide for our router. Now again we'll mark that, well I don't think we really need to mark that up because you can see it perfectly clearly. Router, and again if I get my drill, just a wee step bit, I can run a hole through the top for storage. Once again with the plunge router, we'll try the other side. Now I want my rebate to be 30 millimeters in. So find the pencil. So 30 millimeters in, make a mark where I start. 30 millimeters in, make a mark where I finish. So that's where I want, and use this as a straight edge. That's where I want the centre of my rebate. So I'll line that up. In fact, do you know what we'll do? We'll measure it. So from the edge to the centre of the bit, is exactly 3 inches. So three inches is where I want the edge. So 3 inches. There. Make sure. Plug the plunger over in. Now I can test this. Have it. Runs perfectly down the line. I'm happy with that. Yeah. One straight edge router guide.